Today we're reviewing a strategic manifesto arguing that global enterprises should view incoming e-invoicing mandates not as an IT compliance burden, but really as a catalyst to implement a technology-first, raw data-driven architecture for real-time financial automation.
Right, and jumping straight into the feedback here, the material is incredibly persuasive and structurally sound. But honestly, its overall impact could be massively sharpened by just adjusting its rhetorical approach to the target audience.
Yeah, exactly. The stark polarization between legacy and modern architectures risks totally alienating the target audience of global financial leaders who currently rely heavily on these older systems.
Absolutely. I mean, the document relies on this highly aggressive, almost combative terminology to describe the current tax tech market.
Oh, it really does.
Yeah, you see phrases like unintelligent messengers or pre-formatted trap, illusion of compliance, forced marriages. It positions legacy EDI providers and these mega vendors as fundamentally broken or even like deceptive.
Wait, but put yourself in the shoes of the intended reader for a second. You're talking to a global head of tax or a CIO.
Right.
These are the exact individuals who, over the last decade, championed, procured, and literally spent millions of dollars integrating these exact legacy platforms.
Yeah, that's a lot of political capital.
Exactly. It is like walking into someone's recently renovated home and telling them it is a total teardown.
Right, yeah.
Even if structurally true, even if the foundation is actually cracking, the homeowner will immediately stop listening because it just reads slightly more like a disruptive vendor's sales pitch rather than an objective strategic vision from a trusted advisor.
Well, the suggestion here is to reframe those legacy systems not as failures, but as highly successful solutions for a previous era that have simply reached their technological ceiling.
I love that framing.
Right? You frame the shift to continuous transaction controls as an evolutionary pressure that requires a new paradigm, rather than, framing the old paradigm as an unintelligent mess.
Yeah, because they did what they were built to do. So, looking at concrete examples for improvement, instead of calling EDI networks unintelligent messengers, just relabel them as pure-play transmission networks.
Oh, that sounds so much better.
It does, right? It acknowledges that they excel at routing, but simply weren't originally designed for complex real-time tax simulation.
Yeah, and instead of saying the traditional market is fundamentally broken, you could state that the traditional approach was built for a legacy era of batch reporting and post-event audits, which is just now incompatible with real-time mandates.
Exactly. You blame the passage of time, not the architect. And for phrases like forced marriages of technology, maybe soften that to complex multi-layered architectures.
Right, to maintain respect for the CIOs who actually built them.
Yeah, absolutely. So exploring how the document treats the past naturally leads us to scrutinizing its claims about the future, specifically the functional claim that adopting the new system is incredibly simple.
Right, and here's where we hit another issue. The assertion that a modern platform can seamlessly ingest raw data from an ERP to achieve global compliance totally overlooks the severe data quality challenges inherent in enterprise systems.
Oh, 100%. The text paints this utopian picture of the canonical data model, right? It claims the solution operates on a radically simple premise, which is basically just send the raw data.
Just send the raw data, yeah, it's that easy.
Right. It implies that an enterprise ERP effortlessly outputs standard, pristine transactional truth. And, any seasoned CIO or tax leader knows this is rarely the case.
Oh, never the case. Multinational ERPs are completely plagued by inconsistent master data, local workarounds, entirely missing tax logic.
Yeah.
And by completely ignoring the friction of data governance and assuming raw data is just synonymous with clean data, the material loses credibility with deeply technical readers who, they know implementation is never that magical.
Wait, exactly. If the core ERP data is already fragmented or inaccurate, doesn't piping raw data directly to a central cloud engine just create a faster, more automated pipeline for bad data?
Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, exactly. Garbage in, garbage out. So the suggestion here is to explicitly acknowledge the data governance hurdle. Add a brief, realistic caveat regarding how the proposed platform actually handles messy master data.
Right, or highlight the necessity of internal data hygiene as a strict prerequisite to unlocking that whole, Map once, reuse globally nirvana.
So, for concrete examples, you could introduce a sentence clarifying that sending raw data requires a baseline of master data hygiene that instantly validates the technical reader's real-world concerns.
Yeah, and you could showcase how the platform actually helps clean the data. For instance, explain that the AI-driven real-time validation specifically intercepts the raw data to flag internal inconsistencies.
Like missing VAT numbers.
Right, like missing VAT numbers or outdated vendor details. And it does that before it ever hits the canonical data model.
Oh, that makes sense. So instead of that overly simplistic just send the raw data line, rephrase it to something a bit more nuanced, like by capturing raw data at the source, the enterprise can bypass complex XML formatting, though it relies on robust master data governance.
That is so much stronger. It shows you actually understand their operational reality.
Well, and this introduction of data validation perfectly bridges the discussion to the final third of the document, which focuses heavily on AI and record-to-report optimization.
Right, where the central thesis really seems to lose its gravity, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. The later sections introducing AI features and automation drift into a generic capabilities list rather than maintaining a tight thematic focus on e-invoicing as the strategic catalyst.
Which is a shame, because the core premise established in the introduction is so strong. E-invoicing is the gateway to enterprise transformation.
Yes.
But then, in the AI section, the text just begins listing features like e-sanction checks, global blacklists, optical PDF capture for AP automation.
Right. And while those are obviously valuable capabilities, they feel totally disconnected from the specific catalysts of mandated e-invoicing.
Yeah.
Optical PDF capture, in particular, seems wildly contradictory to the pure digital data argument they just established a page earlier. The narrative thread just starts to fray, and it reads more like a product catalog than a cohesive strategy driven by global tax mandates.
Right. I mean, think about it. How exactly does unstructured PDF invoice capture fit into an argument that hinges entirely on governments forcing companies to transmit structured, raw XML data?
It honestly feels like we stepped into a completely different document.
Exactly. So the suggestion is to tightly weave the advanced AI and R2R capabilities directly back to the e-invoice data. You need to ensure that every single advanced feature mentioned is explicitly framed as being fueled by or acting as a bridge to the e-invoicing mandate.
So, practically speaking, instead of presenting PDF capture as this standalone AI feature, frame it as a necessary hybrid tool.
Right.
You could write something like, during the transitional decade where legacy PDFs still exist alongside mandated XML e-invoices, AI bridges the gap, allowing a single platform to harmonize both unstructured and structured data.
That is a brilliant pivot. And you can do the exact same thing with the e-sanction checks. Tie them directly to the e-invoicing workflow.
How would that sound?
You could say, because the e-invoice mandates require real-time transaction interception, businesses can piggyback on this exact millisecond to run automated global blacklist checks before the invoice clears.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that makes it a strategic advantage of the mandate itself. And you can link the continuous reconciliation explicitly back to the government mandates, too.
Right.
Like, because the platform holds the exact e-invoice data cleared by the government, it can automatically cross-reference this indisputable truth against internal ledgers.
Exactly. That ties the whole document together beautifully.
It really does. So, just to briefly summarize the three major areas of critique we covered today. First, softening the rhetoric around legacy tech to keep those key decision makers receptive.
Right. No teardowns.
Exactly. Second, acknowledging the reality of dirty ERP data to boost technical credibility with the architects. And third, ensuring all advanced AI features remain tightly anchored to the core premise of e-invoicing mandates.
So to summarize the actions for the listener, review your vocabulary in that first half, add a clear caveat about data governance in the middle, and definitely reframe those AI capabilities as direct byproducts of the e-invoicing catalyst in the final sections.
Well said. We warmly invite the listener to implement these high-level revisions and submit the next iteration of the material back to the critique for further exploration. Thanks for joining us today.